Hello, and welcome to another whiskey tasting with Don Kavanagh from Wine Searcher. Once again, it's Bourbon Appreciation Month. You guessed it. So we're trying another bourbon. We thought we'd try something a little bit different this time. And there are a few bourbons more different than Maker's Mark. Maker's Mark, and today we're trying the 46, which I'll explain presently. Maker's Mark is one of the more interesting bourbons in Kentucky because it's one of the newer ones. While most bourbons lay claim to great antiquity in their heritage, Maker's Mark began in 1953. In fact, they produced the first spirit for sale in 1958. So, it's not even 75 years, which is, that's a very young age in bourbon terms. Thankfully, they didn't take a lot of time to get up and running. They're very, very good at what they do. I've always had a massive soft spot for Maker's Mark, not just because they're one of the few brands in bourbon, in fact one of the few brands in America that spell their whiskey with a Y, without the E, so in the Scottish style rather than the traditional Irish and American style. Anyway, let's have a look at the 46. Now, why is this called 46? Well, it's to do with a recipe. It's just the number of the recipe. And the recipe called for the inclusion of 10 charred staves of French oak being added to each barrel of the matured spirit. Now, French oak is very different to American oak. American oak tends to give rich, creamy, full vanilla, caramel, butterscotch flavors, whereas French oak tends to be a little bit more prissy, a little bit more peppery, a little bit more spicy. So it'll be interesting to see what this is actually like. And with wonderful perversity, they decided to bottle this, of course, at 47% alcohol rather than 46, which, again, is to be admired. Now, with Maker's Mark, I frequently get quite a touch of deep citrus, almost orange oil kind of character on it, so it'll be interesting to see what this smells like. Look at the colour. Look at that colour. It's beautiful. Oh yeah. Orange oil. Bang. Front and centre. But not just that. There's a lot going on there. A lot of deep stewed fruit underneath. A lot of spice. A lot of spice. Not a huge amount of sort of that peppery spice that you'd almost expect with French oak, and also with bourbons, because bourbons tend to use rye, apart from Maker's Mark, which tends to use avoid rye really wherever possible and uses red wheat instead, which wheat usually softens bourbon, but in this one it's just given it real depth. Wow, that's beautiful. Whew. You can certainly taste you've had a drink. Wow, that's lovely. That's big. It's, in fact, if you're having this as a sipper, it might do with a few drops of water, to be honest. Possibly even a cube of very good ice. But the flavours are magnificent. They're just pinging all over the place. You're getting a slight peppery hint down the sides of the palate from the French oak, no doubt, because it's clearly not from the rye. Well, you've got lovely creamy fruit. You've got spices, those baking spices that are so familiar to bourbon drinkers. And you've still got that orange oil character right down the middle of it. That's one thing I love about Maker's Mark. They're a family, and you can taste the DNA in each whiskey. It really is wonderful. That finish is huge. It goes on forever. Lovely. Now, some people have asked why I always seem to be enjoying these whiskies. Well, first reason is they're whiskies. Why wouldn't you? And B, let's be honest, we're not going to choose bad whiskies. to do a tasting of, are we? No, don't be silly. This is seriously good whiskey. This is honestly a couple of drops of water in this if you don't like fire in your whiskey. But otherwise, this is very much a keeper. Happy Bourbon Month.